Courtney and welcome to my channel. If you haven't already watched it, I suggest checking out my mid-year freakout book tag for 2021 to see what books I have loved, which ones not so much, and what I'm looking forward to for the last half of the year, and a lot of other fun prompts in there. Also, feel free to head over to my Instagram and Facebook pages and follow me there, where I post a lot more bookish content that you won't find here on a more regular basis. So today we're doing my July reading vlog, or at least the next few days we'll be doing my July reading vlog, and that reading vlog is for The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. So, what is my experience with this book and or film series? So, let me tell you a story, a tale, if I may. I had started Lord of the Rings on audiobook a few years ago and was completely lost. I felt like I didn't know what the names were. I was very confused by the world building and like the Shire and like this person and that person, and I don't think I even made it out of the Shire, honestly, because I was so confused. It didn't help that with my driving, I think I was going somewhere I wasn't familiar with, so I wasn't really paying attention too much. So that's probably my fault to begin with, that it was so confusing, but I put it aside. Fast forward like a year or so from there, one of my best friends and I, he's obsessed with the Lord of the Rings film series. I don't know if he's ever read the books, I'm not sure, but he's like a film, movie buff kind of guy, loves storytelling and like interesting, unique films. So he had already watched them several times, and I'm like, sure, I'll watch them, and I loved them. I loved the score, I liked the like going back and forth between different like kingdoms and spaces, and I learned that that's not necessarily the case in the books, but I don't know, I was reinvigorated or like excited again to get back into that world. I feel like it's one of those books or series that like everybody has read or like knows about, and I'm like, what? Who's Gollum? What's this ring? And all this kind of stuff. So I like, now that I have that context, I feel like I can go back and read the series and understand a little bit more. And I'm not against seeing the film or the TV show first and then reading the book. I tend to try to read the book first and then watch the series, but if that doesn't happen, like, I'm okay with that. That happened to me with The Host by Stephenie Meyer. I started the book, didn't understand anything that was happening, saw the movie, it clicked, and I went back to the book, which they had done differently, and there's nothing against that either. I don't mind when that happens. I know that's, you can't have everything from a book into a movie or an adaptation, so I get it. But yeah, so then fast forward a little bit more to this past spring, I'd say. I was in Joseph Beth Booksellers and like had, I think I was in between volleyball games, or like I just needed a pit stop somewhere just to kill time. So I went in and just perused the sci-fi fantasy section, which like I wasn't looking at anything specific, and I stumbled upon this beautiful leather-bound Lord of the Rings collection. So it was all the books together, or the 3 books together, and like it had a very simple minimalistic design on the front. The cover just felt like amazing. Maybe it wasn't leather, it might have been like velvet or something, but it was beautiful, stunning, but it cost like $50, maybe more, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to spend that much on something I didn't really know if I was going to love yet. So didn't buy it. Came back later and was like, you know what, if I'm going to dive into this, I want to get them individually. But then I'd known that The Hobbit was in existence, so I picked that up instead, and here we are. So long story short, I picked this up because I want to know what the hype is all about. Haven't seen the film of this. I will watch that. I'm not sure if this will be part of this. It might actually. It might be part of this if I have enough time, because I'm filming this and another video at the same time, and this will probably come out 2 weeks from now. So I might have time to read this and watch one of the films. And I think they broke The Hobbit into 3? I don't really know. I heard they're not as good. I have a lot of assumptions right here for this off the bat. But yeah, so that's pretty much in a nutshell what I plan to do, is read this, give you feedback, and then watch the film, probably with my best friend, because I told him I was going to be reading this and that we could watch it together, and he already prompted me with like, yeah, like it's okay. So I already have that stuck in my mind for the film at least. So yes, as it comes to reading vlogs, I have done 6 so far this year. It's going to be too, not challenging to name all of them, but there's been an assortment of them, and all of them I will link at the top here of the full list of the reading vlogs I've done so far this year. So what usually happens is I give like an intro of what I know about the book, and then I will start reading. You will see me reading the book, maybe making dinner, maybe doing some other random things throughout this process of this book. And then I'll stop intermittently and give my reactions, some thoughts, read some quotes and or other musings that I find as I'm reading it, and then continue on until I reach the end and give you my final thoughts and rating and things like that. And since this is a reactions video, I will say right now there's probably gonna be spoilers in there, so if you haven't read this book and you want to not have it spoiled for you, then I suggest reading it on your own time and coming back to this video if you would like. No hard feelings, so feel free to do that. But yeah, I just want to give that caveat, and I feel, and there might be people out there, the majority have read this book, and that's great. I just know I'm going to come at it with like the knowledge that I have, which is not a lot because the Lord of the Rings series is kind of in the future of when The Hobbit is, but I think there's some characters and some terminology and language that will be included in here, so we'll see. But I should probably give you the synopsis too. That would be pretty helpful. It says, Bilbo Baggins is a hobbit who enjoys a comfortable, unambitious life, rarely traveling any farther than his pantry or cellar. But his contentment is disturbed when the wizard Gandalf and a company of dwarves arrive on his doorstep one day to whisk him away on an adventure. They've launched a plot to raid the treasure hoard guarded by Smaug the Magnificent, a large and very dangerous dragon. Bilbo reluctantly joins their quest, unaware that on his journey to the Lonely Mountain, he will encounter both a magic ring and a frightening creature known as Gollum. Okay, so having that knowledge and that context for Lord of the Rings, seeing the films, I actually know a lot of what this is talking about. So that gives me a little bit of hope that I won't be too confused. You can see what my fears are going into this. But yeah, I am excited. I think this will be a good experience for me, and I feel like I'll get a lot of what people quote or like give like references to a lot that I just miss. So I think that'll be really cool too, to be able to be like in on the secret or on the jokes or whatever. But I just think it's a novel that's long overdue. I think this might have been on one of my reading lists when I was in school, but during that time you can like pick, at least for summer reading, you get to pick out of a list, and I think I picked like The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or like something like that, which was very me back then. But yeah, I'm pumped to try something a little bit different outside my comfort zone. That seems to be the theme for me in the last 2 years, is just trying different genres, different styles of writing, and experiencing stories that I might have missed out on if I didn't give it a try. So yeah, otherwise for the reading vlog, I'm trying to think of anything else. I hope to finish this within 3 days. I'm looking at the font size. Not too bad. Oh, they have maps in here too. That's exciting. Let me try to get back to that one. I love when they have, oh, maybe they're just images. That's not a map, but there is a map in the front that I had seen. Where is it? Ah, there we go. Hopefully there will be reference to this a little bit later. So that's exciting. This weekend, I'm helping out a friend at her flea market. She has a booth there, so I'll be setting that up with her on Saturday. And then I have a volleyball game on Sunday. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that would come up. It's supposed to rain all weekend. Perfect reading weather. So yeah, I think that's all I can think of. Of course, things are going to come up, I know. Or like, hey, you want to go do this? Or like, let's go shopping. I don't know. We'll see. I know myself, and I know I get distracted easily. So if I don't finish this in 3 days, you will know about it. But I think the last reading vlog I did for Midnight Sun lasted like 2 weeks. And I think that was too long for me, at least to like check in and be like, where was I the last time I talked to you? Because I want to be able to reference the last time we talked, I said blah, 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 blah. But yeah. Anyway, this is way too much of an intro for you. I will stop talking and get to reading, and I'll talk to you later. Alright, so already off the bat, the first few pages goes over like the language of the land and like runes, which is the alphabet, and I'm already lost. which I think it's just to give like more authenticity, or like the research, or like a lot has gone into this tale or this world that he's building. So that I was just thrown off by initially, but I think it's just to help build the world a little bit more. And as it mentions a lot to do with the map and how there's different symbols on it, or runes, alphabet symbols on it, and then just explaining why the map is oriented in a certain way. So that I hope I can come back to and understand a little bit more. And then I'm still in the first chapter, so we met Bilbo, we got his story of like his parents and all of that, and then Gandalf shows up and says, hey man, I want to go on an adventure, but Bilbo's like, no, I'm good, and goes back into his home. And now dwarves are coming by one into his home, and that probably has something to do with Gandalf trying to get him to go on this adventure, whatever that happens to be. So that is where I'm at, 10 pages in, and I can tell it's going to be a lot of fun. Just going to take a little bit to understand like the jokes, their mannerisms, their characteristics and personalities a little bit more, and we'll go from there. All right, little update. So I'm about 40 pages in, and we're just heading out on the adventure, and got a little piece of some snafus that they've run into. So what happened was 13 dwarves plus Gandalf showed up to Bilbo's house, and then they made themselves at home, like ate his food, all this kind of stuff, and started talking about like, this is the person we're looking for, this is the Hobbit that we want, known as the burglar, who's going to help us on this adventure. And Bilbo was like, can you give me some more info like that? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So they filled them all in on this dragon and this gold and treasure that was taken from one of the dwarves' homes or families like long time ago, and they are going to get it back, and they're going to need Bilbo's help with that. So they start off on the adventure, and they come across some trolls, which Bilbo is like trying to steal and like get the pickpocket thing down, because that's going to be his role in this whole ordeal. And then they get caught. And I was wondering the whole time, I was like, where's Gandalf in all this? He like stayed behind at Bilbo's house or whatever, and like wasn't seen again until they were in trouble, and he was able to stop or distract the trolls. So when the light came out, that they froze, because they're supposed to be underground in daylight, so they're gone or dead or frozen or whatever. So I was like, okay, can they just use Gandalf this whole time if he can help? So maybe that'll be revealed later, or maybe I missed it, of how he can't be involved right away, or like he has a greater purpose, or it has to be these 13, or this group of 13 dwarves and Bilbo. Not sure. So that's where we're at with that. It's getting kind of fun with like the personality of Bilbo, because he's kind of skeptical and realistic, and is like trying to indulge these dwarves, but is needing to work on his confidence a little bit. But yeah, I think he's going to learn and grow throughout this experience. And the dwarves, there's a lot to remember, or a lot of names to remember, so I don't know how many of them are going to be like in the forefront as like important to the whole overall story. They listed them all out, and I think one was Dory and Nori and Oin, something like that. I think that's pretty much it. And Thorin or Thron. The names are going to be tough. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I have to do a workout real quick, and then get some other stuff done around my house, and then I'll jump back to it. Hey y'all, I'm back on another day. A lot happened yesterday in this book and then just in general. So I went up to see my friend at her booth that she was selling baked goods at this flea market. So I helped her with that, and then I visited the Cincy Book Bus, of course. She popped up nearby to the flea market, but it was starting to rain and it was blah, but just a good way to beat the rain is to cozy up with a book and buy more books. So in addition to reading this book, I bought 2 new books. I bought The Personal Librarian and Falling. So those are 2 new books that hit the shelves, I think, this past week, the week before, I can't remember, sometime in July. So yeah, that was the first half of the day. And then I came back, read a little bit as you saw, and then did a workout and started planning a trip. So found out that I'm not able to go to the London Half Marathon because of travel restrictions still in place, but thankfully I'm able to defer to next year, so 2022. So I am finding another place to go and vacation during that time that I already had vacation off, and it'll probably be within the US and at a beach, since I'm craving the beach so much right now and just wanting to explore more bookshops, of course. That's going to be on the agenda, some Airbnbs, and be like comfy, cozy reading and sitting by the pool and the beach. So that was happening the last half. And then what else did I do? Read a bunch more. I think that was it. But reading wise, over halfway done. So I started marking some passages of what was happening that like it got me excited. So I think the last time I had spoken to you all, they had found themselves trapped with, I think it was either elves or goblins or something, and they were with a bunch of trolls, and then Gandalf came and saved them. So I had said, well, why wasn't Gandalf there the whole time? Or like, as the book's continuing, he's like in and out, like saving them, which is very interesting. So they're on this adventure, but they're having all these mini crises or attacks or peril, danger, and Gandalf is there to pop in and help mostly. But this last instance where I'm at right now, like Bilbo's becoming the hero. So fast forward, right now I'm at where they were attacked and like stranded up by spiders, and Bilbo has the ring, and it was using it to be invisible and cut down the dwarves and like attack the spiders and everything. But anyway, yeah, like I think Gandalf just goes in and out, which is very interesting. So like he's the hero, but also Bilbo's the hero. That's like the unlikely one, which is good to know and good to see. It's just like if you have the power of Gandalf, like why not use it? But I know that wouldn't be a fun story if like Gandalf was around saving everybody, so I get it. And then what else was happening? We learned more about the moon letters or rune letters. So they were trying to figure out this map, and they could only see some of the alphabet or the letters at certain parts of like the moon phases, which I thought was pretty interesting. So learning more about their alphabet and like how they are able to read and create documents and everything. And then, so knowing Lord of the Rings, you know a ring is going to be very significant. So Bilbo was separated from the rest of the group, and because he got like hit in the head or something, and then he woke up and was like stumbling around in the dark, found this metal ring, put it in his pocket, didn't think anything of it, and then runs into Gollum. What? I know about him because of Lord of the Rings and like how conflicted that character is, and like has 2 different personalities going on and is obsessed with this ring. It's the only thing that he lives for, basically. So Bilbo runs into him and asks for help. Gollum's like, I'll help you if you can solve these riddles, but if not, then I don't know if he like kills them or whatever. But I wrote, there was a couple of passages where there's all these riddles because they're going back and forth to see like who's gonna lose first, and I said, quote unquote, I'd be screwed if I had to do these. I'm so bad at riddles, and these, I don't know if these are easy or not, or if people had known these going into this book. Bilbo and Gollum both had known them or like were able to deduce based off of like context clues or like stories told to them when they were younger. But I'm like, I would be dead because there were so many going back and forth. But then Bilbo comes out as the victor because he doesn't really ask a riddle. He asks like to himself, like, oh, what's in my pocket? And then Gollum has to guess, or takes it upon himself to guess, and gets them wrong and realizes that he lost his ring, and learns later that Bilbo picks it up because Bilbo escapes after Gollum kind of like unintentionally leads him to like safety or like the way out. So that I thought was a kind of a fun back and forth experience for Bilbo, since he's like on his own and has to fend for himself. And then from there, I think he builds up his confidence and is able to like help with the spiders and everything. And then he doesn't end up telling the dwarves or Gandalf that he has the ring, and that's how he escaped from Gollum. He like includes everything else about the riddles and like jumping over Gollum and all that kind of stuff, but leaves that for himself. But he thinks Gandalf does know because he gave him this look. So interesting. I'm trying to think what else was happening. Oh, I thought it was fun with the Bjorn, the person that can like change skin or something like that, and Gandalf was like trying to figure out how he was going to bring all 15 of them into this home for like shelter and safety and everything. And like he thought the best way to do it was to have like interruptions, and that was to build up the story that he was telling Bjorn, and that made it more interesting and made him not freak out or want to like attack and like eat all of the dwarves. So that I thought was very clever of Gandalf. So that was a really fun little narrative and story there. But yes, that is where we're at. That is the update. An 8-minute update. There you go. And I'm in the middle of the spider battle still. So yeah, I think I'll probably be able to finish this today. We'll see. And then I'll continue giving you updates. And I reached out to one of my friends that I mentioned is like a big fan, and told him that I was halfway through and like get ready to watch the film adaptation. I have to find out where it is, if it's on like Hulu or Netflix, or if I have to go get it from the library or something. So gotta do some research on that so that I can go right into the adaptation and the comparison critique and have fun with that. So yeah, I'll talk to you later. All right, y'all, it is done. It is finished. Yay! Now let's go watch the movie. But yeah, before I do that, a little breakdown. So last time I talked with y'all, they were in peril, and that does not end as they continue in the story. So after a while, I'll say it got kind of like, okay, we have the similar formula here of that Bilbo and friends, or just Bilbo on his own because he was parted from his friends by some unfortunate reason, and there's some magic, there's the invisibility of the ring, Gandalf saves them, whatever. So there's like one of three things happens and then they're on their way again. So that kind of kept repeating itself, although those were interesting adventures and we get to learn about different beings or creatures in the forest, and as like they're making their journey to the Lonely Mountain, I was like, okay, when are we going to get to the mountain and then move the story forward a little bit more? So that kind of got old for me after like the first few times. But I think when like the last two times it happened, I think they got arrested and like were put in barrels and thrown out into the river. So that was one thing. And then they got taken in again, I think. And then finally they got to the mountain and the dragon. So I thought it was kind of cool when Bilbo went in the first time to the tunnel or the cave to where the dragon was with the gold with his ring on, and like stole a trophy cup or something and was like woo woo victorious and all that. And then when the dragon found out, it was like, oh boy, that nobody touches his stuff regardless if he's asleep or not. And things kind of go not necessarily downhill from there, but it kind of spirals and the story really takes a different direction from there because it's not an easy cleanup for like the dragon and everything. And yeah, that's when we actually have a war going on after the dragon is slayed or killed by Bard. And then there's like a problem over the gold. So Thorin and dwarves are like, nope, this is mine. Even though we didn't kill the dragon, like this is my family's mountain and my family's gold and all of that. And then Bilbo's like, I'm sick of this. Like I want to get out of this mountain because the rest of the armies are kind of like sieging them in there. So like they can't escape. They can't get any of their like food or any like necessities of life. So, or they have their gold, but they can't really eat it, melt it, whatever. And Bilbo kind of betrays them, but for a greater good, to bring peace and quiet is what he says. And it's interesting because here comes Gandalf again, knowing that Bilbo is doing this. So Gandalf is kind of like undercover with the Bard and his army and everything, when Bilbo makes like this trade and this agreement behind like the dwarves' back. So yeah, it's just so interesting with Gandalf. We find later that he's like talking with other wizards and all of that, but we don't know too much about it. It's just like a sentence or two about like, oh, this is what he was doing this whole time, and except for like those dire moments where he's needed. But it seems like he's pretty like omniscient, or like he knows what each action is going to lead to, and he doesn't necessarily interfere, specifically in this example with Bilbo. So I thought that was kind of interesting, where he's like, good for you, but get ready, it's going to get worse before it gets better, but that's the outcome that has to happen. So that I thought was interesting, because I feel like I see that a lot in a lot of other like fantasy stories, so it wasn't too surprising or too unique, but I don't know if Tolkien was the first one to do that or not. I'm not sure, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. I thought it was so funny when like everything's resolved and Bilbo's on his way home with Gandalf and like some silver and gold and everything, and they get back and it's been over a year. It was like May to the following June, and he gets back and all of his stuff is being sold because people like think he's dead. I was like, oh gosh. And he's like, all right, well, like as long as he still has his house, he has to buy a few things back, but he's seen kind of as an outcast or an outsider after that, because he has like the reputation of being friends with dwarves, with elves, and like all these other creatures, and the rest of the Hobbit town isn't really like happy about that. So he kind of tries to stick to his own in the end, but like he's happy, he's fine, as long as he's home and comfortable, he's good to go. And then it is sad that Thorin and, is it Nori and Dory? Or no, Philly and one of the other dwarves, I can't remember. They had passed away during this war, but like it was a nice, before Thorin at least passed away, him and Bilbo kind of reconciled after the whole betrayal, or what seemed to be a betrayal. So I thought that was kind of nice and a good way of forgiveness. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm like holding up this book. Hand's not getting tired, but I'm like, you've seen this book so many times already, I don't need to keep holding it up. So I don't think there's any other quotes that I wanted to point out. So overall, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, and that mainly was because of like the repetition. I liked that there was so much action every time, like there was never really any dull moments, but with all of the action, as I mentioned, it was very similar in like the cycle of how the peril came about, how they were trapped, or like it seemed like all hope was lost, and then like success and they get to escape. So like that kind of repetition, I wish it was done a little bit differently. I don't know how. I can give critiques like that all the time, but I don't know how to fix that. And I think it moved the story along, like I said, but I felt like we just come to expect that they're going to get out alive every single time, or like that kind of, it was very cyclical, I guess. So that was one thing that made it fall back a little bit. And then I'm trying to think, nothing else like was like wrong, or like I wish what could be changed. I'm glad I read this because obviously it's a beloved book. When I told a lot of my friends that I was reading it, they're like, yeah, like I read that in high school or in grade school. So I had heard that this is more of a young adult children's introduction into the rest of the Lord of the Rings series, which is more adult. Not sure how true that is, but still I could get some like young adult themes in there, or like not simplicity, but there's still morals and symbolism that could be taken for young adults and adults alike. But I think the style of the writing was a bit more young adults, even with the hard to pronounce or like read names. So after a while I got used to it. I don't know if I'm saying them correctly, but I was starting to get used to who was who. Yeah, I think in the beginning I was very confused, and I think that happens with a lot of world building. And I put on Instagram that I was like reading this and I asked for any tips, and a bunch of people had said like take your time with it. The first few chapters are like a lot of history and explaining things, which I think is needed. It's not the most entertaining pieces of the story, but it's definitely essential to understanding the rest of it. With any book, I guess, but especially with a world you have no idea what to expect. There's so much lore and magic and environment that you're just not familiar with, or you just don't know because it's not like typical, normal, contemporary, whatever. So I think that was just what could be expected and made it a little bit challenging in the beginning, but helped in the long run. Moving forward, yes, I will have to look up the adaptation and get on that. I think there's 2 or 3 films, which I'm wondering, as I was reading it, it was going through my mind of like, how are they going to break this into multiple films? I mean, like, it happens. We know books do this all the time, or writers and, or screenwriters and directors and all that do that all the time. But I'm wondering what will be different stopping points. Like, I just don't know. So it'll be interesting. I'm going to try to go into the films open-minded and just be excited to be back into that world again from when I watched Lord of the Rings the first time. So yeah, that is the plan. But overall, this was going to stay on my shelf. It's something I feel accomplished about, and I now have a lot more reference and understand what people are talking about with different things. So I think that's good too. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. It's been exciting. I feel like there was a lot of, let me read for a bunch and then not check in or give you random B-roll of me eating or reading or the rain. So yeah, sorry about that. There were some points where I'm like, I feel like I'm just regurgitating the story, where you all can get that yourselves if you have read it before or are reading along with me. So I wanted to make sure I was giving information that was like insightful. So that's another reason why I didn't like stop as frequently, because I needed to think about what new information I was going to provide to you all. So I think I was able to do that a few times. Other times I'm like, I'm literally just repeating what this chapter is about. So sorry about that. But yeah, let me know what reading vlogs you'd like me to do in the future. I'm thinking about, these last few have been kind of like book film adaptation kind of. So I wonder if that's kind of my goal moving forward. I'm not really sure. I think that'd be kind of cool, because I like doing those kind of critiques. So we'll see. If you want to see something like that, let me know. But yes, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts on The Hobbit, Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, other reading vlogs you want me to do, or other books. And then feel free to hit subscribe or the notification bell to know when I post videos next. The next week, I'm not sure. I'm not going to Chicago anymore, so I don't know what will be in place of that one, but I will let you know if there is a video that week or not. So stay tuned for updates. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and happy reading.